Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I would like to call the regular council order to order, please, for June the 26th. And I would like council to approve this night's agenda with the inclusion of the new business and supplementary information, as well as one amendment. Item 17, motion to close the meeting to the public, would be subject to section 91C and E. So we're adding and E to that. And yes, so if I could please have a motion to approve.
So moved.
That's been moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Berger. Sorry, to our corporate officer, was there a question?
That's okay, as long as they're going to move the motion as it is presented. There's also a delegation that's being deleted from the agenda.
Okay, so I will address that as well. 5.1 delegation, they've asked for that to be rescheduled, so there will be no delegation. Councillor Ray?
Yes, Your Worship. I just noticed that 9.1 is an application for the sewer specified area, and we're not actually adopting the changes until 9.3. I'm just wondering if those two should be reversed.
Okay, so we can move 9.3 ahead of 9.1. Well, we can just switch the two. Switch the order then. How's that?
I'm just responding to Councillor Berger's comments from earlier.
Okay, an email. There was no public comment made.
In the new business.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that we do that in the right order, that's all.
Okay, so is the mover and the seconder fine with that? The delegation and the change to that order then? Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And we have adoption of the minutes from June the 19th special council meeting. Moved by Councillor Berger to adopt, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Are there any questions or corrections? I see a hand from staff.
Yes, Your Worship. Just on that last change, 9.3 and 9.1, I think it should be 9.3 and 9.4. Should move to the beginning.
Oh, yes. My apologies. I missed
9.2 is a connection to 4.
Okay, so we're on minutes, so we'll just deal with this now then. I'll call the question on adoption of the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And then going back to the agenda, I'd like an amendment, someone to move an amendment to the agenda then, to move 9.4 ahead. Okay. That's been moved by Councillor Pearson to move 9.4 and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Are we clear on the agenda? Remind me when we get to that section. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, so seeing no delegation this evening, we look forward to hearing from the Transition House Society in the future. We'll move straight into our public question and comment period. So this is a 2-minute allocation for members of the public for any item on tonight's agenda except for the public hearings as well as the public input section, as those have their own specific time. But any other items on the agenda, well, we would welcome any comments that you have. And we would just need your name and address, and if you could let us know which item you're speaking to so we can just get to that section in the materials. And please feel free to come up at any time. Call for a second time? Third time? Okay, well, thank you. I just have a question for staff. Is there any way we can turn on the air conditioning, or just suddenly it feels warm in here? I don't know if it's me, but it's just with a number of people. If there's a way just to get some cooling, that would be great. Okay, so we'll move into page 1, bylaw number 670, zoning amendment bylaw 600-37, Ayre Road, please. And is there a staff presentation for this? Okay, go ahead. Thank you and welcome, Ms. Decision.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. The district has received a rezoning application at 6717 and 6723 Ayre Road. The two parcels combined are approximately half an acre in size, and it's in a mix of residential, commercial, and institutional uses in this area. Currently, the properties are zoned R1, large lot residential, and it's proposed that the lots be rezoned to RM3, high-density multifamily. The site is located in the town centre, and the current owner intends to construct townhouses on the site. There is currently one house remaining on the property that the owner intends to remove, and the other house has been demoed in response to the remedial action initiated by the district. The properties are designated town centre within the OCP, where there's support for high-density residential development, a wide range of housing options, affordable and easily accessible units, and a centralized population that supports the existing infrastructure that we have, a range of businesses and cultural activities for the community. In order to meet the OCP requirements around affordable housing, the owner has offered a cash in lieu contribution of $5,000 to the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund, and this will be secured by a Section 219 covenant. Overall, the application meets the goals and objectives of the official community plan, and therefore staff support the rezoning request.
Okay, any questions for staff from council? Okay, so we'll go into the public hearing, and before we do, there's just a statement to read. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. For those of you who wish to speak, please commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then please give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing to be considered by council. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her address in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. Please note that this hearing forms part of tonight's regular meeting of council and as such is being video recorded. Videos and their contents, including any personal information disclosed during the public hearing, will be posted on the district's website. So I'd like to welcome any member forward to speak in regards to zoning amendment bylaw 600-37.
Yes, my name's Brian.
Sure, if you could please come forward, sir, to the table up front here. And we just need you to turn on the microphone, please. There you are. Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name's Brian Penner. I own the property at 6722, which is right across the road from the properties in question.
Okay.
We're strongly opposed to a rezoning of RM3. There's already, traffic issues with the daycare. We don't believe there'd be enough parking. There's an awful lot of ambulances that go down to Ayre Manor, and that would, strongly impede their, help to the elderly. So we really do not want to see any high density housing in that area. We bought that property roughly 8 years ago, and would not have bought it knowing that that was going in.
Okay.
We think it, negatively impacts our property value.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Do you have other members of the public that would like to speak on this matter? Call for a second time.
Herb Haldane, 3118C Otter Point Road. It mentions in here about recession planes, and the recession plane was put in the OCP, but it was for on the water side of of Sooke or West Coast Road. And it talks about it in here, and I'm not sure why it's attached to this, but just if you can give that some merit. It's on the wrong side of the road for recession planes to be implemented. And at the same time, it's a 2-story building that backs onto behind the Legion, which is at least a 2 or 3-story building by itself anyway. So you're not recession planing to get any kind of view corridor to anything. So it shouldn't be as part of this application at this point unless it's on the water side of Sooke Road. And that would mean 40 or 35 degrees after the 2nd story. And that's so you can see water views and so on. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haldane. Are there any other speakers this evening? I'll call for a third and final time. Okay, see no more speakers. We'll close the public hearing and turn back to council. Do either of you have any further questions of staff? You could also move third reading.
Move third reading.
Third reading moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Ray. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Loggins, please.
I support the motion. I do want to address some of the citizens' concerns who are across the street in regards to traffic. And I know that doesn't really, the onus isn't necessarily on the property developer to deal with the parking, especially along Otter Point Road, but just that as council we should be mindful of that in this area, especially that's something we'll have to work on pretty promptly with development starting there.
Thank you, Councillor Loggins. Other questions or comments? Councillor Pearson, please.
Yes, thank you. Again, I wanted to go back through the chair to the staff about the $5,000 amenity being collected on the affordable housing component. Is this part of our amenities bylaw that we've removed, or is this the?
Through the chair, the affordable housing contribution is a 10% requirement in our official community plan for any planned new residential development. So it would be accounting for, in this case, there's 10 units proposed, so it would be accounting for one affordable unit. And that's what the developer had offered in cash in lieu for that unit.
Okay. So, okay, and I think if I can remember correctly, I think we had a discussion around the price of the unit being within the affordable means of Sooke, because we actually have a policy that talks about the price of the unit being at market value as opposed to the contribution up front. So was that considered in this application?
My understanding is what's being proposed on the site is for market housing. And then this is a contribution to meet that requirement in the official community plan.
So, but my understanding is that it could be satisfied either way, that one unit would be affordable on a means test on the average income in Sooke as opposed to contributing?
That is another option. That's something that was,
Okay. So,
it was discussed as an
Okay.
option.
Okay, and the applicant is, okay, I understand, thanks.
Other questions from members of council? Councillor Berger, please.
Yes, thank you. Just one question and then a comment. Looking on page 13 of our package, where it's talking about the rezone to RM3, I think what the previous speaker, Mr. Haldane, was talking about, and I could be totally wrong, I'm just guessing here, it says conditions of use, it says recession plan rules may apply for buildings and structures more than 2 stories in height. So because these are 2 stories, that doesn't apply here? So we don't have to worry about that comment? Just through you to staff, maybe?
Through the chair, the conditions of use actually apply to most of the zones. They're just a reference to confirm whether they apply in this instance or not. I would have to confirm that through the development permit process.
Okay.
when they apply, whether they actually apply to this site.
Okay, so sorry, through you to staff again, do we know if a recession plan is required on this one because it's not more than 2 stories, or again, you'd have to just look back at the...
I would just have to check the bylaw on that.
Okay, just looking on page 13, it might be somewhere else, but in brackets it says structures more than 2 stories in height. So I just had to follow up on the comment.
Through the chair, I don't think it would apply in this case.
Okay, thank you very much. And then just also following up on the other speaker's comment with respects to the zone and parking and stuff. With the multifamily townhouse zone, there is a requirement for the appropriate amount of parking per unit, as well as, is it 1.5, or I can't quite remember. Again, sorry, through you to staff.
Through the chair, the requirement for multifamily is 1.5 per unit proposed. So in this case, if it's 10 units, it will be 15 parking spaces on site.
Okay, thank you. So just to give the neighbor that had questions some comfort with that. And then because and again, this might be for clarification, so through you to staff, Ayre Road is now within the town center. So if I remember correctly, within our OCP, single-family residences are no longer allowed in the town center. So really, their only option is to go multifamily in that area. Is that correct?
In order to rezone,
Right.
You'd be looking at a multifamily zone.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, any other questions on the motion? We have third reading on the table now, on the floor. Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of third reading? Any opposed? None opposed. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So we'll move on to item 7.2, which is public hearing 2 in the blue pages. The zoning amendment bylaw for 2455 Phillips Road, 6334 Riverstone Drive. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. I just need to declare a conflict, as this is within the Sun River development, and my husband is a subcontractor for CETA, who is the general contractor of Sun River.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Berger. Is the fire lounge open? Okay, we'll find you in the hallway. Thank you. Okay, do we have a staff presentation? Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. The application before you tonight is to rezone the shown highlighted area in the Sun River Estates Comprehensive Development Zone from multifamily residential to small lot single-family residential. Small lot single-family in the Sun River Zone is designated as Area F, and it permits a minimum lot size of 400 square meters. Small single-family lots are desirable in Sun River, which is why the developer has also applied to reduce the overall density for multifamily residential in the Sun River development from 100 units to 44 units. To date, there are 32 multifamily residential units that have been built in Sun River, and these are located off of Demanuel Drive, and the development is called The Point. The map on the screen shows the different zoning areas in Sun River. Red is multifamily, and brown is small lot single family. The red area that is circled is the area that the developer wants to rezone from multifamily to small lot single family. Allowing smaller lots for single family residential is supported by the official community plan. No concerns have been received to date. We've received one letter of support, and the applicant is present at the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Questions from members of council? Councillor Casper.
Through you to staff, what's the funny little knob at the end that says REM section 29? So what's that going to be? It looks like a stub. It's on page 18 of our blue pages.
Through the chair.
What is it?
Are you talking about the remainder section 29 that's to the right?
It's just a little nub there, right? So what's that going to be?
Oh, through the chair. That's going to be the access into the small lots. So we need to include that into the rezoning because right now it has a multifamily designation.
Okay. So just further to that, in our maps, it doesn't really show that there's a road there linking them. So anyway, just somebody could clarify.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, I'll try to clarify the best I can. There will be a road that will abut, as you say, that knob that comes out. It's the extension of Riverstone Road, and that's the next phase. I believe it's phase 3B, and that is coming up very, very shortly. And the road will go from the end of the existing Riverstone out to Phillips Road.
Is that good? Okay. Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I'll move the recommended action.
We need to go into public hearing.
Oh, first. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So.
Oh, no, okay. It says right here. Oh, yeah, it is.
Well, we have.
Sorry, I read that fast.
Is there anything further from council? Okay, so we'll move into public hearing, and I do need to read the statement again. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available, and it is in this yellow package. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. For those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, please commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and home address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. Please note that this hearing forms part of this evening's regular council meeting and as such is being video recorded. Videos and their contents, including any personal information disclosed during the public hearing, will be posted on the district's website. So on that note, I'd like to welcome any members of the public to come forward to speak to 2455 Phillips Road or 6334 Riverstone Drive.
Herb Haldane, 3118C, Otter Point. I'm curious, I don't see it anywhere in the application, but what's the affordable housing contribution from this rezoning, if there is one? And I guess at this point, if you look at it from a perspective of, you used to have 100 units there, which are multifamily, so they're obviously more affordable if they come in a townhouse or a condo size. Now they're going to a single family, using up the same amount of property and less, so they're going to sell for a lot more money, so there's no affordable content to this. So, I mean, from my seat where I'm sitting, I would see that if we're going to be consistent, we should be asking for affordable housing money, especially when we're going to a lower density and looking for higher priced houses, helping the community and so on. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haldane. There are other members of the public that would like to speak on the public hearing? Call for a second time. The applicant like to add anything? Okay. Call for a third time? Third and final time? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we'll turn back to council. Any further follow-up questions for staff? Maybe I'll ask then just in regards to the affordable housing policy. Thank you.
Through the chair, there are currently about 490 units that are, or lots that are developed for single family in Sun River, and out of those, 14 are small lots. So they're less than 550 square meters. So the developer sees this as a more affordable option for those who would like to purchase a single-family house. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from members of council? Someone like to move third reading? I think Councillor Casper beat you to it this time around. So third reading has been moved as presented by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Discussion on third reading. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. And if we could please have Councillor Berger return to the meeting, please. Okay, welcome back. And thank you, Ms. Johnson and Ms. Lecision. Okay, so we're going to move into our public input meetings and related reports. This evening for presentation is the District of Sooke 2016 annual report. And I'll turn this over to our corporate officer, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a quick PowerPoint presentation just to sort of overview and highlight some of the report details. So included in the 2016 annual report, there is a message from the Mayor, Council member overview, a community overview, municipal objectives, which include the 2016 strategic plan and the 2016 to 2018 progressive report. And these are based on, like it says there, the strategic plan. So those projects that are indicated in there are based on the council's strategic plan. There's also an overview of the municipal services and operations by sector or department. And the 2016 community grants and property tax exemptions are included in this report, along with the 2016 audited financial statements. Every year, the municipality has to present a annual report, which includes certain stipulations according to legislation, which you can see here. I won't go over them because we're all used to them, but they are there. And I just wanted to know if you had any questions about the overview or the layout of this year's report, and if you were happy with what was presented.
Thank you, Ms. Reers, for both the PowerPoint and for your work on the annual report. I really liked the way that it was laid out. I thought it had a really nice polished finish to it, and it's nice just to look back just to see how we're moving through our strategic plan. It seems that we adopted that quite some time ago, so it's just nice to have that refreshed. Other comments from members or questions from members of council? I believe this also has the opportunity for public comment as well. So seeing nothing from council, I'd like to open the floor to members of the public that would like to speak on the annual report or have any questions.
On the clock. The annual meeting is actually for the public. Yes. And this is the first time I think that I've ever had one mixed into the middle of a regular meeting. We would have an annual meeting where this is what it was for. And in fact, most of the government literature that I read recommends that it be done that way. I know we used to have all the things set up, and you could walk around and talk to various members of staff and other members of the public, and the annual meeting meant something to me tonight. It's just one more failure as far as I'm concerned. To me, 2016 is the worst year that I have ever sat through council meetings or anything else to do with this particular council. I had a whole lot of other things besides the annual report, but I will stay with it. as best that I can. But I certainly think that sticking it in the middle of a regular meeting was inappropriate. So I would like to start. I've got the pages are written over top of each other, so I think it's 103 of 254 that I'm on. Strategic priority, excellence in management and government or governance. Every time I hear that, something else gets thrown around in my house because I don't see excellence anywhere in this room this year. So we can start with community engagement. It says use of select task force committees and special outcomes. I have no idea what that means, but I know that the committees are all gone. When committees are taken away, you do two serious things. You separate the public from meetings where things are casual and you can talk about things, but maybe more importantly, you take away the opportunity for those who sit on committees to learn and maybe come forward next time to run for council. There's no place anymore for the public. And that's, to me, that's basically what you're supposed to be here for, is for the public. So then you go down to community engagement, ongoing website improvement, explore other tools. So then we've got iCompass, Civic Web, Open Government Portal, Web, whatever the heck that is. All of you are well versed in all of this, but some of us are getting on in our years, and we're not experienced in all of this stuff. You've changed the district website, and now I know there's at least 5 of us that can't find anything on there anymore. The minutes are missing, and I mean they're there, but you really need to bring a tech into your house to tell you how to use the district website now. I mean, these things are basic to what you do. You're supposed to make it possible for all of us who are paying our taxes into this place to be able to take part in what's happening. And every time you change to some iCompass, I don't even know what that means. So that's another complaint that I've got, and my friends have the same problem. Then you get down to digitally share information used for open houses and public information meetings. Good, whatever. All of this, you're taking away from the average person the ability to take part in what's going on in this place we live in and did at one time love. So then I go over to community planning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are down. It says community amenity contribution policy. The last that I read, you had taken out the community amenity bylaw, and it sort of read that, oh well, we'll just sit down with the developer and whoever's doing the staff side of it and decide on amenities. I thought amenity contribution was something that the public had an opportunity to speak to, because after all, it's supposed to be an amenity for the community, not for the staff. And that's another one that I think you need to take another look at and make sure that people aren't denied the opportunity to speak to it. And besides that, a lot of developers have put significant amenities in there. So then page 107, enhancing community livability. Sounds good. 1, 2, 3, down 4, community gathering spaces. Talks about John Phillips Memorial Park. That's good. Galloping Goose Connector Trail. I wouldn't want to brag about that if I had had anything to do with it. It's just a lot of money that was spent, so people could walk on about, what, a quarter of a mile of blacktop, but that's all, because it really, everything else was already there, and the part that went through the woods has fallen apart, so nobody goes in there anyway. And the Sooke River Park, to the best of my knowledge, is not a park. It's in the ALR, and the horseshoe people were given freedom to put their horseshoe pitch on there, but it's not a park, and it won't be a park until you get it taken out of the ALR, which I think would be relatively easy. I don't know if anybody could grow anything on there unless they go down below and maybe grow rice down on the muck. So that, those kinds of mistakes are, they keep coming up. And I don't know how you have a completed Sooke River Park plan when it isn't a park. The two down from that, the two public parking areas are created through lease arrangements. That's one of those is not in the town center, as far as I know. It's out at the wharf, and the other one is in the town center. So that sort of ends. Well, what have I got here? Oh, I know. Down at the bottom of that, over that page, is regional transportation and support improvements to Highway 14. The subject comes up inevitably about putting a bypass road over the hills and whatever. And there was indeed that plan. It goes back to just after we incorporated. There was a meeting in this room, and the only two members of the public that were here were myself and the late Howard Elder. Howard had the map with him that showed the road coming over the hill and across the river and all that good stuff. And the gentleman from Highways, whose name I'm sorry I've forgotten, sat at the table and said, "You just gave it away. You gave any opportunity for a bypass road away when you let Sun River build the size of an operation that they put there. There is no place to cross the river with another highway." And that was right from the ministry's office, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name, but I can't. But Howard had the map, and we no longer have Howard, so that's not there. Got something else here. I better not make that comment, or I'll probably get chucked out. Just a question on page 131. I was looking at the various properties under Sooke Community Association, and I just wondered about the 6441 Throop Road. What would that be?
I think it's a ballpark.
But the ballparks,
is that Art Morris?
There's other ballparks, two other ballparks here on Throop Road, and the tennis court is on there.
And there's a section of land as well at the top. That
Pardon me?
There's also an additional section that just sits. There's no.
Oh, there's nothing on it?
Well, there's trees on it.
Well, I mean, it's not used.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still looking for the page. I'm thinking if it's not the ballpark, then that could be it. It's sort of just above Sea
Well,
Park.
there's two ballparks listed there on Throop Road, which I know what they are, and the tennis court. But I just wondered what the 6441, because it would be, if the ballparks are 6521, then 6441 would be towards this way.
Is that the one adjacent to Sea Park?
There's a large chunk that they own right next to Sea Park. It attaches to the ball fields over there, sort of in that gully.
Yeah.
It backs onto Monty
Where the bike park is, sort of above that.
Oh, okay. But is
There's
that,
like a treed area there.
is that Throop Road?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. I just was questioning that because I didn't know where it was. And I guess I have a lot of really serious statements about the finances, but I guess I just, it's part of the annual report, isn't it? Maybe I'm not allowed to ask. Well, I've just got my own notes from the finance stuff is in there. I just wonder, is the CAO still being paid while on leave?
I don't know that I'm able to comment on that. It would be in provisions of her contract.
Well, under the contract, as I read it, there were 3 days of pay for bereavement, and after that, I just, it's okay. I don't need an answer. But I do need answers for, we hear that there was $22,000 in expenditures from one, and I don't know, $19,000 from somebody else. And I do have Freedom of Information material here. What I don't understand is the expenditures that are in there from the credit cards and everything. Why are these not approved at the table in public? If you're going to go and buy furniture for your office, Madam Mayor, or for things on the floor or whatever, why are these things not approved prior to the purchase, prior to the credit card thing coming out, by council at the table?
Perhaps can I get a comment from our finance director just on how purchasing is done within the municipality for items like that?
Your Worship, everything's in the budget already, so it's already an approved item in the budget. And then there'd be a purchase order done that would also get approved. So the expenditure authority person has the approval to do the purchase, and then we have a payment authority function. So there's no need for it to come back to council.
Unless the amount of us is of certain dollar amount or greater.
If it's over 25 grand, we're going to bring it up to in front of council. But other than that, no. And most of these items are very small. So we're talking, some of them under $100, or, a desk might be $700. So, no, we're not going to come to council for every $100 item, or we'll be here every night, all night.
And my furniture was moved when I was away and replaced with something
I
different.
wasn't saying there was anything wrong with it. No, it's just that, it was like $2,200. It wasn't a $100 expenditure. But, these, I think I've written them down as pesky little red lights. We paid $1,400 for those, and well, Mr. Blackhall says that they're in the budget. They aren't in the budget by identification. There might the money might be in there, but I mean, we didn't hear about your furniture or these pesky little red lights, and they're not written in the budget in that. I mean, there's some horrific expenditures in these credit card things that I've got, and I think I attended most of the meetings up until I just decided that was it. But, I mean, some of these expenditures just astound me, and I believe that the public has a right to hear the discussion involved around the purchases, because after all, we are the taxpayers. And I don't, Mr. Blackhall says that they were all in the budget, but we found they weren't, didn't we? didn't you run into a spot of bother because you did
Excuse
not
me,
get
I'd like
it
to
in there?
interrupt. I'd like to know what you're talking about.
Well, we had a whole batch of expenditures that we found out were not approved, and you had to go back and write a new bylaw to cover that, and that's illegal. I haven't forgotten it. I did ask the question that night on please tell me who approved these expenditures, and you all got up and walked out. I was pretty sure that council did not approve them, and that's why I asked the question. And you had to write a new bylaw to cover the fact that those expenditures were not legal expenditures. And to me, we've got a whole bunch more because we've got all of these. I thought that they were never approved, but you're telling me that they're in the budget, but they're not in the budget by name, as far as I can see.
Your Worship, I'd just like to add, we did the budget amendment out of transparency purposes. Didn't have to do it. I have a legal opinion that,
So have I.
as long as we're not going over budget on the lines in the bylaw, people need to remember the budget bylaw is the bylaw. It's not the 40-page detailed line-by-line document. We could never possibly have every single line item of what we might purchase throughout the year in that thing, or it'll be thousands of pages.
But the community charter says that any elected person who votes, I can't remember the wording, but it's who votes for an expenditure that is not in the budget is expelled from office. So, and I also have a legal opinion from one of the best municipal lawyers in Victoria. But I'm not wanting to fight. What I want to know is when large expenditures are going to be made, shouldn't the decision be made for that particular expenditure at the table in front of the public? That's all I'm asking for. I don't expect to get it, but a year and a half from now, maybe we will. Thank you for the time.
Ms. Rees, you good? Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Hall. Any other members of the public that would like to speak on the annual report? I'd just like to highlight that it was a year of change within the district organization. I myself was on leave, and we had 3 members of council step forward on their own accord. Well, there was a schedule, but put their names forward to step in at the last minute to see things carry on within our strategic plan. We have a new CAO that began and new staff and a tremendous amount of work being done, such as transferring our sewer operations in-house, resulting in significant savings to the district, as well as bringing in our parks department. Yes, there's been capital expenditures in relation to both of those items, but you can see the work that's being done out in the community. As you drive through, a number of businesses are also stepped up their act, and Sooke is looking very attractive all around. A lot of work is being done by both members of council and staff working together to realize our plan and to do a lot of work on behalf of the community. I recognize that we've had a lot of changes, and some perhaps we can communicate better. We can always communicate better. We can always look to improve how we do our business, but at the same time I want to express thanks to staff and thank you to council for carrying on with the strategic plan. It didn't just get tossed out the window. It's the one time that I've served on council that we've actually stuck with it year after year and are actually trying to realize things. And I think that's visible in what we see and what we share here at the table. I know that our staff are under full load right now. We also had some long-term staff depart and other staff needing to step in without the corporate knowledge perhaps that the others had, which they've done so with the very best that they bring forward, their talents, their knowledge, their skills. Our fire department is full on busy right now, very actively so. So I know that there is always room for criticism, of which I appreciate and will take into consideration, but I also recognize that we're in record time of growth, record time of opportunity, record time of permitting, subdivision activity, and the like. We're seeing town center projects come alive for the first time, and I know that not everyone is pleased with the work that we do, but I would like to share my appreciation for everyone sitting at this table and over at the staff table and working hard below us in the other parts of the building day and night. Over at the sewer plant, out in the parks, really doing their best for the community. And that's what I think we as councillors or mayor debate and differ sometimes on how we see things through, but there is a collegial camaraderie that is shared here, a genuine respect for one another, as well as recognition of staff and the hard work that they do, and that is the first time I've seen this in this municipality. So I'm proud of what we achieve, and I'm grateful to be serving as mayor and proud of everything that our district, our staff, and our councillors work so hard for. So on that note, anything else from members of council? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the District of Sooke 2016 report. Moved by Councillor Ray and seconded by Councillor Pearson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, so now we're getting into this number 9 section. So we're going to 9.3 first. And that is that council adopts Sooke Core Sewer Specified Area Mandatory Connection Amendment Bylaw 673-281-3. Moved adoption by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Pearson. All those in favor? Opposed? Is carried unanimously. 9.4, Sewer Expansion Reserve Fund Bylaw, and that is that council adopt that fund bylaw 674.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Berger. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. I think we switched 9.3 and 9.1, so that puts us at Zoning Amendment Bylaw 6671 Wadham's Way. That is that council adopt Zoning Amendment Bylaw 665. Moved by Councillor Berger and seconded by Councillor Ray. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And 9.1, please. We have Bylaw 677-147-33, Sooke Core Sewer Specified Area Amendment Bylaw 7053, Maple Park Terrace. And Mr. Howitt, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a brief just summary from the report that's in your agenda. The district has received a petition for a local service area and enlargement of the Sooke Core Sewer Specified Area from the the owners of 7053 Maple Park Terrace in order to facilitate a connection of their property to the new sanitary sewer infrastructure that was installed as an occurrence from the Viewpoint Estates development on Maple Park Terrace. Through no fault of their own, they've been having difficulty with their existing septic system. It has been failing. They're sort of limping it along, and they have an arrangement with the two owners to the east to procure an easement that will take from their existing line coming out of their house. They will go through the easement across the two properties and connect into the new system on Melrec Place. Winfield Road as part of the overall development of Viewpoint Properties. We've had sewer serviceability. There's no problem from that respect. And as I said, there is some urgency there. They've had it assessed by somebody who's in the business, a qualified professional. And as I said, they're limping their existing system along, and they would like to connect as soon as possible.
Okay, questions from council then. Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, and I'm going to support this going forward. But my question through you, the chair, to Mr. Howitt. that Maple Park Terrace, that all the way along there, that's like a big solid rock pile. Now, we have capacity to pick up all those lots along Maple Park, because it's going to be next. I mean, it's almost like it's going to be piecemeal. Everybody's going to come along as their drain fields fail and ask it. So there may be some advantage to people hooking up now with our new sewer bylaw, right? The sooner better rather than the later. So I don't know. I'm just putting it out there for a conversation. Anyways, thank you.
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor Pearson. Originally, it was perceived that there would be a sewer line going along the bottom of those lots on the low side of Maple Park Terrace. For some reason, that came off the table some years ago, and I'm still not too sure why. This particular instance, as I said, out of no fault of their own, the owners did some work in the backyard they perhaps shouldn't have done. Unfortunately, they created themselves a bit of a problem, but they need to hook up because they do have some serious problems.
Any other questions? Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. My question is similar to Councillor Pearson. I remember when Maple Park Terrace came to Council for zoning and sewer inclusion, there was capacity for the residents along Grant Road because they were coming from West Coast Road. So I think you've just answered my main question was, is there capacity for that this lot to be added? And I think I'm understanding that you're saying yes. As well as Councillor Pearson, I don't have a problem with this application, just providing that it follows along with the new fee structure that we've adopted tonight rather than the old one. Thank you.
Okay.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Berger, the proponent here is well aware of the new bylaw and the new fee structure associated with it. And rather than pay $50,000 or $60,000 for a engineered system to help them out, they would rather pay the $6,300 and connect to our sewer system.
Okay, so the first part of the motion then is that Council receive the petition for local area service for the property located at 7053 Maple Park Terrace. Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion on receiving the petition? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And then the others, Ms. Rees, can these be done as a block or do we separate them out?
You can do either. It's fine to do them as a block, Your Worship.
It's not wise to?
It's fine to do it as a block.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay. So Council, would you like to do first, second, and third reading all together? Okay, moved together then by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any discussion on either first, second, or third reading? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously too. Thank you. We're moving along to page 10.1. That is 6743 West Coast Road, the proposed strata conversion. So, Council, we've received a few delegations in the past and materials over time, so I'll turn this, and it is Council-driven, so staff is here to assist us in this as needed. Any other questions, though, on the strata conversion? Councillor Berger. And I just say that because we asked it to come straight to Council without a report.
Yes, thank you. And we've talked about this at length a few different times. So I went and looked at our, again, just because it does lie within our council table, I wanted to make sure that I was following the policy correctly. So I looked up our policy again today and just read through it to remind myself how we're supposed to go about this. And the application has now come to us. I noticed, though, in part of our policy it says, sorry, just bear with me here. It says that the approving authority will first evaluate any application strata conversion principle. The approving authority will consider those matters noted in the Strata Property Act as well as the policy. And it also states that, sorry, I've lost my other note, that what we can do, because in the engineering letter that we received with the package, I believe the last time it came to council, it said that there were some deficiencies with respects to the floor or something. But within our strata policy, we can give, if we so wish, we can give approval in principle, providing that, I think it's up to 1 year, and I copied and pasted it somewhere and I can't think of where I put that. Within our policy, it says we can provide approval in principle with and give them 1 year to remediate any of the deficiencies that were there. If anybody else has any questions, I'll find it, because I did look through the policy. I might still have it open.
Okay, does anyone else have questions or comments regarding the proposed strata conversion? Councillor Ray?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I'm just looking at the staff report that also talks about that it cannot be given final approval until the registration and everything is finalized at the Land Title Office. So that falls in with the same comments Councillor Berger has made. I guess for myself, I'll be supporting the application, but I think my comment is that this has really felt like taking a square peg and trying to put it in a round hole for a number of reasons. It's hard for me to see it as a duplex, but given the comments, I will be supporting it in principle.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Councillor Casper?
Well, perhaps for some assistance, a motion could be crafted that would include that the strata conversion be approved in principle, subject to the completion of the requirements laid out by the engineering firm, Precision Engineering, and the final registration of the subdivision of, I don't know what lot it is. There's a current application for a subdivision. That's to be carved off first, and then the conversion can take place. So I think we all need some comfort in how a motion could be crafted to include that.
Is that the motion you would like to make then?
Well, I would move that if there's a
council
seconder.
Approve the proposed strata conversion application in principle for 6743 West Coast Road, subject to the final registration
and the completion of the engineering requirements by Precision Engineering.
And completion of the engineering deficiencies? Completion of engineering...
Well, they lay it out as requirements.
Of engineering requirements. Okay.
As outlined by Precision Engineering. And
outlined by Precision.
And the registration of the subdivision of lot.
I've got that subdivision. Okay, is there a seconder?
Yep, second. I apologize, I don't have the lot number.
Yes, let's just see here. That council approved the proposed strata conversion application in principle, subject to final registration of the subdivision and completion of engineering requirements as outlined by Precision Engineering. Does that cover the, just getting back, final registration of the subdivision? Was that?
I think Mr. Howard is.
Mr. Howard?
Thank you, Your Worship. If you want to maybe just tighten it up, it would be for the final registration of the proposed subdivision, currently in process for Lot 1, Plan 24215, Section 3, Sooke District.
I think you might need to repeat that one.
Yeah, it's a little complicated.
For Ms. Reer's edification, it's actually on the application and it's enclosed in the package.
Oh, okay. Final register of the subdivision. Okay, we'll just wait for that. That captures then.
Page 175.
175. Okay. Just wait for that to be wordsmithed out. But you had, in the interim, you had questions, Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate that Councillor Casper's motion, it says the areas of concern, and it's in paragraph 5, I think. Area of concern, the substructure beneath the kitchen. The area appears to have been enclosed porch. It's been repaired. It says it just needs some, like a sill gasket between the wood and concrete and anchorage to the foundation. So it seems pretty simple. Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, that's where we cover off the engineering requirements because that was in the letter.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, final register of the subdivision of Lot 1 block. Okay, we'll see that here. Other questions from members of council?
Well, can I just ask one question?
Just one? Go ahead.
Because I made the motion, so I wouldn't mind asking one question. So as far as through you to staff, that if this motion passes, then when all that is dealt with and completed, then what would be the next stage? Would that be enough to have the strata conversion registered?
Your worship, through to Councillor Casper, what would take place is after the registration of the land subdivision, if I can call it that, the applicant would then have their surveyor prepare what we would call a final plan for the strata conversion, and it would come back to council with the confirmation of the registration. Actually, it would be notated on the plan anyway, and confirmation from the engineer that all the remedial works have taken place.
So is it possible to hear from the applicant on what we're doing?
There's a motion. There's a live motion on the floor. So.
Well, I understand that, but I just want to get some additional comfort that there isn't going to be undue time delays associated. So that's all.
I understand what your concern there, but there's a live motion, so we've lifted it and it's with council now. So to have a non-councillor speak to this, and I appreciate where you're coming from. The motion's already with council, and it's just amongst us at this point. You could lift the motion from the table. So I'll just call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Okay. 10.2. Maple Avenue South to Norden Road pedestrian connection. And, okay, so looking for staff report. Mr. Howitt?
Your worship, again, I don't have a formal PowerPoint presentation. But we've been looking at doing a walkway on Highway 14, on West Coast between Maple and Norden Road. And we've been working with the MOT, but they don't want us to go up on the south side of Highway on West Coast Road and eliminate what they consider the parking for the boat launching ramp. So what we were looking for was permission to go forward and put an RFP out for some high-level engineering associated with putting the walkway on the north side. And as the report states, it's going to create a bit of a ditch infilling, et cetera, creating a cost that we weren't really expecting, but there is really no other option that we can see. And what we are recommending is for council allows to go and tender out to get an RFP for high-level engineering to see exactly what this walkway would cost going up the north side of West Coast Road.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Councillor Ray, then Pearson. Sorry, what is that sound? Was that the fire alarm? Do we need to leave?
Sorry, Your Worship. That's just our alert notification system in the fire station for a medical call right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll hear the fire trucks going soon.
Okay, thank you. I thought I heard it was a fire alarm, and then I thought, well, maybe we should be leaving. But okay, on that note, Councillor Ray, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I certainly support the recommendation that staff's brought forward. I've advocated in the past that the path go down the north side just because it brings more people off north of Sooke Road onto a path that will then take them into town. And so I'll certainly support getting a high-level cost on this.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Then Parkinson.
Well, Councillor Ray's not going to like what I say. I won't support this. The north side's the wrong side to put it on. I live there and I walk that all the time from Maple Avenue down to Heron View. And the south side is the right place to do it, and I think we have to go back to the Ministry of Highways and encourage them to participate with us. The cost alone to go along that north side will be like quadruple, because the road is right up against the ditch. We'll be cutting into banks. We'll be doing all kinds of things. And if you walk along there with a buggy or a kid in the buggy, it's the wrong side of the road. It should be on the south side of the road. And I appreciate the parking thing. The parking is an issue that's going to continue on there forever if we don't fix it and get rid of it. So I'm not going to support this being on the north side of the road. Not even close. No, I'm not going to.
Okay, Councillor Parkinson, then Berger, then Casper.
Through you, Your Worship. So I was under the understanding that we got the parking lot down below for everybody that's fishing to be parking down there. So I don't understand why we're still allowing the vehicles to park on that side of the road. So this weekend, they were all parked along that side still. And I think that we need to do something to get them off the road because it's very dangerous having them all parked there. And so by having our sidewalk go down that way, I think that will alleviate that problem.
Okay.
Has to be worked on. And I have one other thing to add to that. Am I correct in thinking that we will no longer have that parking lot after 2 years? Is that how long it's for? I thought I read that somewhere.
It is in a report that it was a 2-year lease. So, Councillor, so
then there would be no more parking for.
Well, it would depend on council of the day and the owner of the land in question to see if they wanted to renew it, but it's not our land, so.
Thank you.
Who knows? Councillor Berger, please.
Thank you. Well, we're all going to agree and disagree on this topic, I think. So where to begin? I don't support this going forward. I would much rather see us, with the amount of money that's going to cost to fill in ditches and look at road right-of-ways, I would much rather see us improve pedestrian connectivity on our school routes. We've got Otter Point, Grant Road, Throop Road, Charters Road, where we've got lots of school kids walking every single morning. I don't think the amount of money that this will take is beneficial. I don't think we're getting any bang for our bucks. Forgive my lame term, but I just think there's way more. There's so many more roads where our kids are walking to and from school every single day that could be improved. So I don't support having this here. And I actually highlighted the part where it says MOTI was not receptive because of the unofficial boat launch parking because I agree with them. And that's going to sound odd because I want to make that road safer for walking. But last year I was in Port Alberni for a ball tournament for my daughters, and all along the harbor view of Port Alberni, every Saturday and Sunday, it is ridiculously congested. There are boats and trucks and trailers everywhere. And instantly what it made me do was slow down. So I'm slowing down in that area, and then as I'm slowing down and it's taking me longer to get through, a trigger went off in my head that the economic influx into that city through fishing was astronomical. There were so many people coming to Port Alberni to fish, to have lunches in the harbor area. I mean, if we're allowing more parking, which I guess we don't have a choice, so it's not really up for debate. It's the ministry's road, so the ministry is going to do what they want to do on it. The ministry is basically telling us that they're allowing people to park there. That's a whole other bag of worms, but I guess the gist of what I'm getting at is I don't support it. It's going to cost a ton of money, and we've got school pathways that really need the attention.
Councillor Casper, please. Then Loggins, then Ray for a second time.
Okay. Well, I don't support spending more money to improve Ministry of Transportation and Highways right-of-way, whether it's a road surface or a sidewalk. So it's money that's under our control. It's the Sooke's money. There's no contribution from Highways. I've seen no agreement from Highways for this proposed work or the blacktopping of a sidewalk that this council never approved in 2016 that was done on West Coast Road. And secondly, I'm still waiting for the white lines and the pedestrian delineation on Grant Road that this council was told in 2016 was going to be done. So before I even give any blessing to this, I've got a number of concerns that I want to see addressed. Namely, finish the projects we started last year where there are no white lines down Grant Road that separate pedestrians, to eliminate the bike path, which we approved that shoulder for pedestrians, not bikes, when that contract was awarded by council, and that we spend money on Sooke roads as opposed to Ministry of Transportation and Highways Road. And I think that we should go back to them and say, look, there are some drainage issues on that road that need to be fixed. Once that's fixed, then I think some of the costs could be reduced to accommodate what I think Councillor Ray would like to see. I can support some of it, but I can't support all of it, because there's a number of things that I've seen us not complete, both last year and this year. And now we're going to go hell-bent for leather, get high engineering, whatever, to go and spend a pile of money on a road that, or a portion of road that we don't own. And our priorities in our strategic plan talked about making improvements for accessibility, livability, especially within the town center. That property's not in the town center area. We talked about that for a number of years. That's where we said we were going to make the effort to make things better for people in Sooke. We started that with the roundabout, and then we had $250,000 to spend between Otter Point Road and the Hope Center, but that never got done. And I don't know where that money went. And then we've got 100,000, maybe 100 plus right now to do something for that area. So, I think we have to put things in perspective, maybe hold back and try to finish what we started last year and this year. Look after the Sooke people first, the Sooke roads, the Sooke sidewalks, and not the Ministry of Transportation and Highways. Now, I know there's an issue with pipes or lack of pipes and open ditches. I've walked that stretch at night. It's not safe. So I'll admit to that. So maybe if we are going to have further discussions with highways, let's address those components first, see if they've got some money. There may be some changes in the next few days as to, decision making by the ministry. There may be changes to the guard, and that may free up some money. Who knows? So I'm willing to go halfway, but I can't support what's here right now, with the greatest respect to my colleagues. Thank you.
Councillor Loggins.
I cannot support this either. I think, as the several other councillors have mentioned, there are too many missing connections in our community. One that I've brought up before would be the crosswalk from Phillips across to the Sea Park entrance, which still has not been done. So there are students crossing the road there every day without a crosswalk. And as Councillor Berger mentioned, there are lots of students around the municipality that are using our roads with lots of missing connections that I would rather put this money towards. Everything else has pretty much been said, but I do agree with those who are kind of echoing those statements.
Okay, Councillor Ray.
Thank you, and I've listened and I agree with everything that's been said at the table. Just coming back as I spoke first, my support for the motion is because there are a lot of young moms with strollers that live on the Whiff and Spit, and young families along Tominey. And I think it is something. They are people who live in Sooke, and I hear everything. I agree. If highways should be at the table with a pot of money, absolutely. But I don't want to lose sight that there's a lot of people who live in Whiff and Spit. They're young families, as well as Tominey Road, that have strollers. And respectfully disagree with Councillor Pearson. How do those mums and those strollers get across West Coast Road to the south side? So it may cost more money, but I think safety-wise and access-wise, you need it on the north side for the people off of Tominey. And I had also suggested at one point a marked crosswalk down by the Prestige that would link everybody off of Whiff and Spit. But I certainly agree that there's a lot of sidewalks and road work that needs to be done in our district, and I'm sure this council will prioritize it.
Councillor Pearson.
Well, my wife was like you saying, she's a young mom with a buggy. There's already a trail from Whiffenspit all the way past the Prestige. It's paved right from inside there, so it ends at the Prestige now. So the existing on the south side of the road is where everybody walks now. There is no existing sidewalk on either end, so it would be tremendously expensive. You would be adding a sidewalk to nowhere on the north side of the road. So the south side would be connecting from the end of the Prestige to Maple Avenue, and then you would cross in a straight stretch. So I just want to let you know is that, because I walk it all the time. So you come up to Maple Avenue, cross there, you would never cross that highway anywhere down in those corners. So thank you.
So I'll go to staff, Mr. Howitt, then I have some comments.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to clarify a few things. Grant Road, I apologize for the lack of painting for last year.
Mr. Howitt speaking.
The contractor ran out of weather last year, and they are scheduled to come back this year and tidy it all up. The strategic plan identified a walkway along West Coast Road from all the way out to Norden Road, and we were just picking up on that strategic plan. This RFP wasn't really going to cost us anything other than to get an idea for the future of what it might cost to do this walkway. The crosswalk at Phillips Road, I'm still waiting for C-Park to get their act together. They want to readjust their access, and I was going to work with them because I want to remove the crosswalk that is existing on Phillips just past the C-Park entrance and bring it back towards Highway 14 so it accommodates the walkway as well that we put in there last year. So we are moving forward with doing things, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. The walkway or the raised walkway that you were talking about from Otter Point Road to the Hope Center is also within Highway 14 right-of-way. That is Ministry is as well. We have procured permission to do something in there, but unfortunately that stamped asphalt, colored asphalt that was preferred is expensive, and I'm still trying to get a decent price so I can work within our budget on that. And I just wanted to give you an update on things that are going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Howitt, and thank you for bringing this report forward. We have heard from members of the public in this chambers here just how treacherous that section of road is, and it comes up often whenever we talk about the boat launch and parking and the like. And so I appreciate the initiative here just in trying to find the connection. I think sort of our plan was to have areas connecting to the course. You would have multi-purpose walkway, be it sidewalks or whatever, connect all the way over to Whiffenspit one day, and so certainly that people can walk through this safely. The challenge with just that I see with this is that the ministry has to be at the table. I mean, I don't mind. I support the motion in the sense of, okay, well, let's see what can be done on the north side. Ultimately, highways will say, yes, you can do one or the other, so it gets the ball rolling. But at the same time, I'm hesitant to do anything without them participating, because we continually are trying to deal with the boat launch parking, and then we decide that we don't want parking, and then the highways doesn't support us because it's their road, and then that leads, but they're not managing the parking either. So the problem is that people will just park, and then if you're trying to walk, sometimes some people park close to the shrubbery, so then it's not as treacherous to walk by, and then other people just kind of park. So then you're forced to walk on the road to get around. It just depends on how people are parking. But the problem is the province isn't looking after their road and managing the parking. So we can't ticket or do anything about it because it's under ministry authority. So I appreciate where everyone is coming from here. I think what I'm hearing, though, is we've gotten some answers from staff on some of the other items. I know line painters right now are in high demand everywhere, and I suppose even on Highway 14, because we were supposed to receive some high-tech glass beadwork that I heard about, and I still haven't seen it on the highways yet. But anyway, it's busy everywhere for this type of work, so I can see that those items will be addressed in due course. But in terms of this here, staff have some funding so we can put something into place. It doesn't mean that this work would occur, but we have to look at this area, but we need to have the ministry participate in this so that what we do isn't overturned. Obviously, if we put any sort of walkway on the north side, there has to be proper crosswalks to get people back and forth. Councillor Casper.
So I'm prepared to support a position where we go to the Ministry of Transportation Highways and enter into a cost-sharing agreement to cover a portion of the costs associated with doing the drainage improvements to at least create a level surface. That's point number one, because you've got two separate sets of works. One is to get piping in the ground, cover it over so that you could put a path on top of it. Then we're going to have to do survey work and all that wonderful stuff to find out where the property lines are. So I think one step at a time, and then it gets the ball rolling without committing us to doing the whole thing. And then I think that would satisfy me. I'd be satisfied with that step, one step at a time, and there's no harm in coming back. But, you know, I'm after a partnership here, not just one way, District of Sooke. You know, what did that cost us? Over $4 million for the roundabout. We got 300,000, maybe a little more from highways. So we didn't get a lot of money. And that partnership perhaps is a little too one-sided one way and not to us. So I'm trying to get more of an even-keel partnership. So I don't know if we...
Well, we need to work with them. I agree with you there, and I just don't want to see us do our initiative only to have it overturned by the highways, because then we put in a great safe walkway on the north side, and then the south side parking is still hazardous. It's still dangerous for cyclists trying to get around these vehicles, and people might be, you know, just on that side going from whatever. So would you like to make a motion, Councillor Casper, so we can get something on the floor here? So staff to work with the ministry on a cost-sharing arrangement to address the section of highway from, I would go from Otter Point to Whiffenspit.
Well, I'm prepared to support that because it's both projects.
Well, it's both projects. I mean, and then it's step by step. Like, this is a section of road, it's provincial highway that we need to address from Otter Point. We have already talked a bit about the right-of-way and the concrete as well, but to have it extend to Whiffenspit. And then we can see where they're at with this. It's their highway, so they also need to be at party with this for bike lanes, for parking, for everything, because we don't have the ability to overturn them when it comes to parking. So our efforts have to be together, and maybe we'll see how things go. So we still need to get a motion. I'll go to Councillor Loggins, and then another motion on the floor.
Yes, I'd be prepared to make that motion as long as we're discussing the section of road. I think it's the north side and the connecting piece to the boat launch that doesn't really fit for me, especially if we don't have the boat launch for a long term. It makes no sense, but as long as we're doing it for that section, that's part of the work that we've wanted to complete as council, so to get the ball rolling on that would be excellent.
So here's something that staff have put together, that council directs staff to approach the Ministry of Transportation and Highway and enter into a cost-sharing agreement to address the north and south side sections of road and sidewalks from Otter Point to Whiffenspit. Yes. Are you comfortable moving that? Councillor Loggins will move that, and Councillor Casper will second it. So speaking to the motion, Mr. Howitt.
Sorry, Your Worship. I was just wondering if maybe the wording could be a little bit softened, not enter into a share costing agreement at this point, but enter into a dialogue with regards to share costing.
How about explore?
Or explore, whatever. Yes. Thank you.
How about explore, right? Because I think we want to know what the cost is before we decide to share it. Explore a cost sharing. a cost-sharing agreement. Are you comfortable with that, mover and seconder?
Yes.
Okay, speaking to explore a potential cost-sharing agreement.
So I'm in favor.
Okay, you need to turn on the microphone.
Sorry, I'm in favor of
The
that.
amendments are good, okay?
Now, I'm just, adding, when these discussions take place, so they could cover engineering costs, they could cover design costs, all that criteria. There could be material costs. There could be a whole host of arrangements that could be made during these discussions. Instead of us stick handling it and paying all the upfront stuff that could just sit on a shelf. I don't want to get caught up on that. So I'm suggesting that when we talk about cost sharing and some arrangements, there's all aspects of the project. Engineering, material costs, construction costs, you name it. So I'm not hung up one way or the other. And then whatever those results are, then it comes back to us to see if we feel it's fair and equitable. Because I think that's what we want. We just want fairness and equity.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor here. So any other comments on this motion? I think I have a number of letters to write to various ministers on a number of matters. I'm just sort of waiting to see when those can go out, but potentially the other follow-up is the corridor study. This isn't on the motion, but there's just all these pieces now that it'd be great to actually have the ability to send this and to start this as well. So any further comments? So this is covering off from Otter Point to Whiff and Spit, both sides of the road, including sidewalks, and I imagine everything in between as well. And that would be a crosswalk. Okay? Anything further from council? Any further comments from staff? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay? Thank you, and we look forward to further conversations, Mr. Howitt. Thank you for bringing this forward. So our next item is 10.3, shoulder walkway delineators.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a presentation to make. I think the report is self-explanatory. Thanks to our acting CAO / Director of Finance help staff put this together with regards to a transfer of funds to allow us to purchase these delineators that we would like to put down on the walkway that we did last year on Church Road as well as College, just to delineate a little bit better and give the walking pedestrians a little more comfort that they're actually on a walkway / type sidewalk without spending a fortune to raise the actual sidewalk. It just gives the separation that we think is required for those two walkways that we constructed last year. As I said, the report is self-explanatory. We will be getting the money back from ICBC because they considered those worthy projects that we did last year for the safety of the walking pedestrians on those two roads.
Okay, Councillor Ray.
Yes, Your Worship. I certainly will support the transfer of the money. I found driving up Church that you had to almost take a second look to realize that one side was the pedestrian, so even as a driver. And I've also noticed on Sooke River Road that vehicles are actually driving down from the mailbox down to Kirby on the walkway. So I think these are important to protect our pedestrians, both on Church, College, and on Sooke River Road. So I'll support it.
Would you like to move the recommendation?
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Ray. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Loggins. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Loggins.
Thank you. I think the delineators that are currently at Church and Throop, we found they were just too far apart, and so vehicles would be pulling in, and as Councillor Ray mentioned, they would drive down that area. So just to have a few more in there would be really helpful. So I definitely support the motion.
Yeah, no, that's great. Any further discussion on the motion and the recommended action? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, 10.4, we have a draft letter of support for Mook Marine Energy Productions Limited. Mr. Mook has been before us a few times, sharing his vision. So move recommendation by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, see none. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you for your patience, Captain Mook. We've changed the course of Canadian history. Well, we look forward. That's positive, and I appreciate hearing that. So we'll have this, staff have drafted the letter, and I will sign it this week, likely on Wednesday, and unless it's here tonight, we'll have that ready to go for you. Our staff will be in contact when it's ready to go.
Oh, it sounds great. The world's waiting.
Okay. Thank you. We look forward to hearing more in the years to come. Okay, moving on to 10.5. This was pulled by Councillor Ray previously in an item, and this here is a refugee sponsorship program letter from June the 12th. And there's a draft letter. The only thing that I did when I looked at the letter is I think the last paragraph can go. Like it's sort of... in the third paragraph, it says, by way of this letter, we request that you take action in ensuring that refugees previously approved for sanctuary and so on. And then it says it would be greatly appreciated if you took prompt action in processing. Like it's sort of, the language is different, but it seems similar. So I just kind of struck through there. I think the points have been made in the earlier part, and the fourth paragraph isn't necessary. What are council's thoughts on that? I just think it's captured there. Good? Okay. So looking for a motion then that the draft letter be sent as amended. Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Anything further on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Reports for information. 11.1 Sun River Staircase Procurement Report. There's a report here that staff have done, just sort of updating how things have progressed with those stairs. Is that fully open now? Completed, open, ready? Okay. I'm just wondering if there's some items outstanding with the First Nations, perhaps, that we should connect and finalize with them?
If I may, Your Worship, when we ran into the artifacts, we actually hired Millennium Archaeology to deal with the issue for us. And then after they were finished dealing with the Sooke and the Beecher Bay First Nations, they followed up with those two First Nations, and they were actually doing some more work with them. They were carbon dating some of the finds, and they were actually repatriating.
Okay.
And I believe that has been completed, but it wasn't part of what we hired them to do. It was over and above what we needed them to do so we could finish our staircase. I believe they are complete now. So I don't think we need to be in contact anymore with First Nations.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, anything?
I'll move the report be received.
Okay, move report be received by Councillor Ray, seconded by... Anyone like to second that? Councillor Loggins, okay. Any questions, Councillor Casper, or comments? Go ahead.
I just have a comment. I just raised the alarm bells. If this was such an urgent matter, as identified by the Municipal Insurance Association, why did we go through the huge exercise of going through an RFP, reject the one bidder, and then go out and seek out another party without going back out to tender? So we appeared to go out to tender first and then decided not to go out to tender. And, I think there's some discussion that I'm prepared to have this matter be referred to our in-camera session. I'm prepared to make that motion.
Okay,
I know there's a motion
so
on the
there's a
floor,
motion, and so...
I'm going
You
to
can
move
ref-
that the matter be referred to our in-camera session.
Okay, so there's a referral motion. Is there a seconder to refer? Seconded? Okay. On the referral then, all those in favor of referral? Opposed? None opposed. And then on the main motion then, it's to receive and to refer in camera. All those in favor of such? Opposed? Okay, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, committee recommendations. There is a recommendation out of the Committee of the Whole from June the 19th that Freedom Mobile compile and address concerns from the committee and the community in a package to staff regarding the proposed telecommunications tower at 2614 Otter Point Road, and report be brought forward to the July 10th regular council meeting.
Move the recommended action.
Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Berger. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. I think just on the cover page, it's just written twice here. Okay. Are there two different ones?
Yeah, two different addresses.
Oh, pardon me. Okay, I see that. So the second, I'm sorry. The second one is the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that Freedom Mobile compile and address concerns for the proposed tower at 5154 Sooke Road. Are you moving?
Okay, I'm moving. I have to declare a conflict.
Okay, your microphone isn't on, so Councillor Pearson is declaring a conflict on this particular item.
Yes. And I didn't declare it publicly in the last meeting, and I probably should have, as my sister owns a property adjacent to the 5154 Sooke Road.
Okay.
So I stepped out last time whenever this was discussed.
Okay, so if you could just...
Get out of the room.
Okay, so moving this, Mr. Howitt?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to bring a point up that staff has been in contact with one of the representatives from Wind Mobile, and I believe it was the one that was doing, the consultant who was doing the representation for the one on Glens Lake Road, to find out what their intent was, whether they were going to, under the procedures under Industry Canada, they need to engage and contact the people who were in opposition to these towers and deal with their comments and concerns. As I said, staff has made contact with one of the consultants with regards to, I believe it was the Glens Lake Road, and they are going to proceed to get to take the comments and concerns and have those addressed and come back to us. We have not been able to make contact with the other consultant as of this date, so I'm not too sure if we're going to be able to come back with a staff report as soon as July 10th.
Okay, so perhaps instead of putting in the date that July 10th, so that's for the 514 Sooke Road one.
Your Worship, I would suspect that it might be both of them.
It could be both. Okay, so to the July 10th or when available, I suppose. I don't think the date then is, we don't want to direct staff to do the report if you're unable to do it. So whenever at the next, just at a future regular council meeting. Thank you. Okay, comments. I have Councillor Ray, then Berger, please.
Yes, Your Worship. Through to the Director of Planning. My recollection was there was some urgency to this decision, was there not? That's why it was made for July the 10th. There was...
120 days.
Yeah, that's what it was. Thank you. To be within the 120-day time limit.
But as what I'm hearing from staff, though, is that it's still up to their consultant to compile this. It's really not in staff's hands.
Your Worship, if I may, if you read Industry Canada's guidelines, there are approximate dates, like 100, I think it's 60, 120 days or what, but I don't have it with me, but I think that's what it was. But it's in the hands of their consultants now to get that feedback to give to us so we can bring forward in a staff report.
Right.
As I said, we've only been able to get a hold of the one consultant and not the other, so I'm not sure whether that person's away on holidays or whatever, but we will bring, when we amass the information, we'll bring it back as soon as we can to the next, to the most, at the time of the regular council meeting, so.
Yeah, okay. To our corporate officer?
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. If I understand correctly, the council can ask for an extension on telecommunication tower, proposed telecommunication towers. So it might be maybe a thought to add in an amendment to this motion to the something to the effect of asking for extension if required, just because we don't know when we're going to be meeting again next.
But wouldn't that be up, though, to the...
Yeah, if I may, Your Worship, this is totally up to the applicants. It has really nothing to do with us.
Okay.
We're here to, facilitate a legal responsibility that they have.
Yes.
So, if they're not willing to get the information to us on their required timelines, then that's
What
up to
I'm
them.
comfortable doing is that if, staff have made the outreach to their staff, and if necessary, if they send a letter to us requesting an extension, then on July 10th, council can consider that at that time and put the extension forward. But I do feel that this it's their consultants that have the work to do and to respond to the needs brought forward from our community. So I'm fine with it. But I thank you for bringing that forward. Anything else? So we'll just move the recommendation. Or Councillor Ray?
So my question is, we've already passed a motion for July the 10th.
On the previous one.
On the previous one, and we're just going to do, brought forward to a future regular council meeting for this one?
I think we might have to amend that motion as well, just so it doesn't look like staff isn't meeting a deadline, right? That isn't on staff to meet, so thank you for that. Councillor Berger, you also had your hand up.
Yeah, I just was going to address that they're similar to what staff has just said, because it's a federal regulatory body, and really it's not. I mean, we can issue a letter of concurrence or non-concurrence. It was great that the applicant stayed the entire time and listened to the lengthy debate that went on and concerns. So my comment was just purely on they're mandated for 120 days for public consultation. They heard everything that we heard, so I think it's just upon their shoulders to address the concerns raised by the residents of Sooke.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Howitt.
Thank you, Your Worship. We could bring forward an update on the July 10th meeting to how we succeeded in our contact. But I would rather not if it's going to change the resolution. So
I think it's up to them to do what they need to do. And if they can't meet the deadline, to request as needed. So I'll call the question then. Actually, we need this motion moved. Moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Ray. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. So now if we could just go back, we need to amend the previous motion to have the date removed and just have future replaced. So if I can have an amendment, that amendment made to that motion, please. Moved by Councillor Berger and seconded by Councillor Ray. All those in favor? Or Councillor Casper?
I think it's important to note that in the staff reports we had received, that the applications as presented met all of our zoning requirements. So the district at any time can actually forward that information, that all of our zoning requirements have been met by both applications. Now, I'm not advocating we say that, but that can be stated at the July 10th. But it's incumbent on the applicant, in my mind, to deal with those issues that were raised. And if we can lend some additional credence or voice, there's nothing stopping us from approaching Industry Canada and Canada, or Health Canada, in reviewing and possibly updating their requirements, because they're the ones who implement the standards. So if there are concerns about the standards, then we can add to that voice. But it's totally out of our hands on that, and we have to deal with what we have as far as these towers being located in predominantly rural areas, meeting the required setback requirements, and what our regulatory regime is within our own zoning bylaws. So I think we can't ignore that. That's reality. But I think we have to maybe add a voice to Industry Canada's, what people perceive as low standards as far as the international community is concerned. I'm not saying we do that now, but I just want us to think about that.
It's food for thought. Okay. Councillor Parkinson?
Through your worship, they also mentioned that they would also like to have council's blessing before they go ahead with this. So I think that we should take into consideration ourselves what the public had said, and from the pictures that were shown to us, where the tower was directly in front of the person's living room window, I think that we should be looking after that for the people of Sooke as well.
So is there something more that council would like to do at this moment in time? We'll wait for the report and then we can carry on from there. Okay. All right, moving along. Did we not vote on that? Oh, sorry, on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, new business items. Okay, item 1 was the correspondence regarding the public hearing, so that's fine. Just a question for clarity, though, on these items when they come in for a public hearing. I'm used to seeing them in blue paper, like added sheets, or am I missing something?
Yeah, Your Worship, just because they were forming part of the supplemental agenda package, we had to decide if they're going to be yellow or blue, so we chose yellow to go with the supplemental package.
Okay, I got it. Okay. I guess otherwise you have to put multicolored packages together, I suppose. Just, yeah, okay. No, point taken. Okay, so item 14.2 is interesting. So, as council is aware from our previous conversations, the regional growth strategy that Sooke did support at the Capital Regional District Board was not unanimously endorsed by all participating municipalities. And so that is leading us through a mediation or non-binding dispute resolution process. At the Capital Regional District Board, or actually at this table, we had the opportunity, even though we supported it, we could still participate, and we decided earlier this year that we did want to participate so that we sort of see how the needs of our community are being addressed and how things are unfolding. Recently at the Capital Board meeting, the board itself also needed to appoint representatives to represent the interests of the board. And then, of course, the Wanda Fuca area, which is greatly impacted by the RGS, before that had been in dialogue with the previous Minister of Community, which was Minister Fassbender, about having an equal voice at this table, equal to that of a municipality. However, that was turned down by the province because they deemed that he is in unincorporated lands and not a municipality. So there was a request that Director Hicks be given 1 hour to meet with the mediator to express the views of the Wanda Fuca. Before that was voted on, though, there was a decision to have 2 members of the board support the board, and 3 names were put forward, and then through a secret ballot process, Director Ben Izard of Victoria and Director Nils Jensen, Mayor of Oak Bay, were elected by the board, and Director Hicks was not. So Director Windsor and myself put forward then the motion that he be given the opportunity to meet with the arbitrator. So that's sort of the history of what's occurred recently and who is representing the board. And then here you'll see in the materials, we still need to formally appoint our representatives that will represent Sooke through this process, through a series of meetings as they go forward. I don't think the dates have been set, but you'll see on page 33 of the materials the municipalities, the council decisions, their representatives, and then also the rejecting municipalities that are required, and then the accepting municipalities listed here. 3 municipalities choosing to participate and 3 decided not to. So that's where we need to actually appoint a particular person. And I would also like to have a staff member to do this as well. So Councillor Loggins.
Just for clarification, did you want to appoint someone, have an alternate, and have a staff, or did you want the alternate to be a staff person?
It's up to us, really. I think what I'm sort of seeing others do is sort of appoint 2 people, but in some cases 3. So a lot of this will kick off in the summer. I would like a member of council and a member of staff. At a minimum.
Because I was going to suggest that we have, of course, with their approval, that we would appoint yourself, Mayor Tate, and Councillor Casper for these positions. But I wasn't aware of a staff person. I don't know if you have someone in mind, but I'll leave that open to...
It would be Mr. Howitt, just to have someone from the development side and to handle the technical aspects of this available. So that's why our staff have been involved with the RGS and how it's been drafted and bringing forward sort of those technical points of our growth that are sort of more non-governance and more in the end. And that's why I think that both are necessary.
Okay, I agree, and I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. So it'll be myself and Councillor Casper as alternate and Mr. Howitt. I know that Councillor Casper is away has some holidays. Would you, I don't know the timing, would you like to participate in this? You were at the board, and you serve at the board as well.
Well, it all depends when it starts, because you're going to be away or busy in July.
I'm busy in July.
And if it starts in July...
That's why there's...
Then I could do it. And
yes.
if it starts in August, then...
Then I'll be doing it. So I think between us and Mr. Howitt, we're good. And I don't really know what the dates are, but we'll find out in due time. Okay, so thank you. Questions? Councillor Pearson, then Ray.
Yeah, no, I think that's the exact right 2 people to be on, because you guys are on the board now, and I think that it's continuity with the CRD, and you've been to the meetings, you've heard all the discussions, so good choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Your Worship, and yes, I agree with the appointments as outlined, but I'd just like to make a comment in terms of the process, and just want to express my dismay at the process that excluded Director Hicks. Oak Bay is showing that they're not going to participate in this process, and yet Director Mayor Jensen is going to be part of that part of the mediation. When I think it would have been nice to have seen Director Hicks, who is one of the few that are going to be really impacted by this decision. So I just want to be on the record that I'm dismayed at it.
And I think they chose not to. Can't speak for them, of course, but I know it was at our option and our cost. and we accepted the RGS. And I think maybe that's where some of the others are. I don't know, though.
No, I think all I'm trying to say is that Oak Bay chose not to participate in the mediation, and yet their representative, their director, is going to be there at the exclusion of Director Hicks, and that's what I'm dismayed about.
Yeah, no, there was 3 people were nominated, and then, it is an interesting process. Okay, anything further? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And we have an email here. This has been forwarded on to us. There was an email sent to us on June the 9th from Mr. Les Monington, and then some additional comments from, or request also from Councillor Berger to have this to the June 26th meeting. And this is just talking about how his property has been impacted over the years and where it sits now. So, Councillor Berger, please.
Yeah, just to speak to this, since I've sent this email, I am aware that staff has been in contact with Mr. Monington, and I believe that something should be coming forward, just opening the dialogue. And that's really the intent of my email, was to get staff and Mr. Monington talking so they can come to some sort of conclusion. I believe that that's happening.
Go ahead, Mr. Howitt, please.
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor Berger, I haven't talked to Les or Mr. Monington in a little while, but we received this email from Randy Clarkson on his behalf, and I will be corresponding with him tomorrow. What I've started now is I've asked our engineering firm, Stantec, to do a more thorough cost estimate for our ability to service Mr. Monington with sewer. But regardless of that, there was an impression with Mr. Monington, and I think even to some degree with Mr. Clarkston, that gravity-fed sewer service is available, and it is not. The only way that we can give Mr. Monington's property sewer on the north side of Throop Creek is by pumping it into a line, because either way, it'll either go down to Phillips Road or it'll go back up to Throop Road. Either way, it's under pressure. You can't gravity feed to a pressure line. Where the misunderstanding was from years ago, somebody either from staff or from Stantec said it would be gravity fed down to Phillips if Throop Road was constructed. Regardless of whether Throop Road is there or not, you cannot gravity feed. It has to be pumped. So we're getting some more detail on an estimate, and then I will bring that back to Council and seek direction from there.
Thank you, Mr. Howitt. So mover's seat by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Logans. Any further comments or questions for staff at this time? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And now we have correspondence received from June the 8th to June 16th. Is there an item that you would like to discuss? Which one, please? Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, it's the condition of Connie Road. So when we got this, I actually drove up there. It is actually falling apart. So,
which letter? Let me see here.
It's up near somewhere in there. Mr. Duma, I believe. Is that right?
Page 247, Your Worship.
Yeah, 247 on the...
Oh, I see. Here we request for road improvement. Okay, so let's go to that one first. Just want to... Okay, would you like to speak to that, Mr. Pearson?
Yes,
or Councillor Pearson, pardon me.
And I would like to bring it out of the reader file and get it to the next meeting, or ask for a motion to get a staff report on the condition of Connie Road, because it is extremely bad. And then he's got some things in here that said he's talked to main roads, and his words are is that it's the condition of the part of the roads have exceeded their ability to patch it. So I'm not a road expert, but I drove up there the other day when we got this, and it is really bad.
We had a delegation earlier this year talk about Connie Road, and then we have received some comments that I know some of them in the road rehabilitation program are actually worse than Connie, which is frightening to say the least. rough shape. Okay, so
I second the motion.
you would like this to come to the July 10th meeting? Okay, and so that's been moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Parkinson. So when this item comes at that time, what outcome would we be looking for that?
I guess I was...
That we can't, I'm just wondering that we can't deal with now.
I was just wondering if we could get a staff report on, what are the viable solutions? Is it chip seal? I don't know. I don't know what the word is that you would do there.
Go ahead, Mr. Howard.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Pearson, Connie Road is probably one of our worst roads, but we do have roads that are equivalent to that. It'll be part of the package of our engineering report that's being done. Connie Road is one of those kind of roads where it would probably have to be ground up. Well, the asphalt that's existing, if you can find anything, would have to be ground up, or it may not even be usable. It may need a repave.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's underneath that, under the base. That's one of the original roads out here. It could be anything under there. So I don't know what the solution is. We have other roads that service a lot more population than Connie Road that are maybe not quite as bad, but bad. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And thank you, Mr. Howard, through the chair. It's just, if you drive up there, I'm surprised we're not getting charged with damages to people's vehicles. There's some big monster holes in that road. So.
Yeah, there are. Just to clarify, like with the road program, was Connie added to that, or that you're getting the assessment on, or
Your Worship, no. Connie Road would be one of the roads in the larger engineering report that's coming for the 2-year, the 5-year, the 10-year program.
Okay, so it's not in that package for this year.
It wasn't in that package,
Okay,
but it certainly, when we do come back with it, it certainly could be looked at council's discretion what they wanted to do. So.
Okay, so it's thank you, Councillor Parkinson.
Through your worship, council was asked to put forward roads that they thought that should go on to the list to review. So I think that Connie Road could be added to it.
I think that part, though, is already, what I'm hearing, though, is that when we made that deliberation, it was what was identified in that report, and we didn't change it. But I know, but we're waiting for that piece to come back.
Yeah, if I may, Your Worship, there was a staff report that recommended, that sort of highlighted some roads, and we do have the $1 million maximum kind of program in the budget. So if council wished Connie Road to be part of that program, then we'd have to, it would need to fit in that overall $1 million, and we're not going to obviously be able to do everything. It probably, I don't know, 6 roads or so, probably.
Your Worship, through to just to add on to Mr. Blackhall's statement, those roads that we brought forward for the $1 million, they weren't etched in stone. And yes, we did say when we got the evaluation back that we'd bring it back to council, and you would help us, or actually set the priorities. But we picked the roads that were transit routes, pedestrian routes, routes that had a lot more traffic than some of the other ones. But if Connie Road is chosen, I mean, that's part of the $1 million deliberation, I guess, for council.
So we can discuss Connie when we get that report back then. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was too late to have that added, so that's why I'm asking all these questions. Okay, so we'll get the report back. So but we still have this motion on the fly going, and then we can make a subsequent motion when the rest of the report is done. So does that answer this for now, or do you still? It's just I'm wondering. Okay, we have the correspondence, so okay, but here this is asking for a report then for July the 10th. Okay, all right, Councillor Berger.
Sorry, just for my own clarification, what do we want on this report? Because if we're going to ask, like, is this report going to be to include what the cost would be? Because if are we looking at through you to staff, are we already looking at the cost of Connie Road, or do we need to add that? Because to me, this report, what is it, Like, what's the report for? We already know Connor Road needs help, so let's.
Your Worship, through to the council members, I could, for the sake of this report coming back on July 10th, I could check with Main Road and get a high-level estimate of what it would cost to fix it, if you will.
That sounds good. Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, and then we have the rest of the correspondence here. Move receipt by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Logans. There was an interesting one about dog waste, unfortunately. I found out that none of the CRD parks, it's in their policy not to provide dog bags or waste receptacles for dog waste at any regional park. So that explains why when you walk along the Goose, often there's all sorts of things left behind, including bagged up items left behind. So that whole item is going to be discussed soon. That's interesting. Okay, motion to receive. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Reminder on Canada Day that we need to gather at 11:30 at the Loggers Pool. Is everyone going to be in attendance? Yes? Okay. Councillor Loggins? Maybe? Okay. Okay, so reports from members of council and our CAO. Councillor Casper?
Yesterday, or no, it was about 10 days ago on Friday afternoon, I attended the CRD Affordable Housing Forum. And I'll just leave council members with this thought, is that what I heard at that forum, it was attended by, there were 184 registrants, and it was an all-day event. But what I heard and others heard from both the for-profit deliverers of housing, whether it's housing for sale, affordable housing for sale, rental housing, both private sector and not-for-profit rental housing, was concerns raised about municipal time delays and costs associated with doing development proposals. That was ringing throughout from different tables to tables and different sections and discussion groups. Even those who were fully responsible, now retired, for example, with the CRD Housing Corporation, Henry Kampoff, he said that it was a challenge to deal with municipal government and the problems and the delays in order to deliver projects in a timely fashion. And, you know, that's the kind of message that I have echoed around this table, and I just hope that this committee that's being formed will take these types of things into account. I can make available a copy of the summations and what the final outcomes were. I'm sure there'll be a report to the CRD board from the regional planning people. So I just thought I'd pass that along.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from members of council? Councillor Parkinson?
I attended the Regional Housing Trust Fund Commission meeting today, and there were two presentations for buildings that are going to be built for affordable housing and for women against violence, and both are going forward to the CRD board for approval. But what was said at the table there was that all municipalities are having a problem putting together an affordable housing project into place for each of the municipalities. And a couple of them said that the consequences of not having affordable housing, whether it's to purchase or to rent, is that people applying for jobs in North Saanich and Saanich weren't going there because there's no housing available for them. So not because of what they're being offered in pay, but because there's no place to live. And they also said that they were losing out on the island. They wanted medical professionals to go over there, but because there is no housing on Salt Spring Island, they're not going there either. So unless we have affordable housing here, we should not expect to be getting professionals coming here, is what was kind of said there. So I think we really have to look at what we're doing and how we are going to make that available for our town if we want to see it grow and have the amenities that we need here without people going elsewhere to find them. Thank you.
Other comments from members of council? Over to our acting CAO. Is there any update you'd like
Thank
to
you,
share?
Your Worship. I would just like to remind anyone that might be watching that taxes are due on Tuesday, and that we are open. I've paid mine too. We are open until 8 p.m. tomorrow night and on Thursday night, and that is an excellent time for people to come because the traffic is a lot less. It's going to be very, very busy near the end of the week and Tuesday. All those days, I imagine, we'll have lineups most all day long. So that's it.
Is it 8:30 that the district office opens in the morning?
That's correct, 8:30.
Okay, so 8:30 to 8 on Tuesday, tomorrow, and on Thursday, and then until 4:30 the other days, or drop off in an envelope. Okay, thank you for that reminder. Okay, so on that, there's no notices of motion, so the next is motion to close the meeting to the public under Section 91C and E of the Community Charter. Moved by Councillor Loggins and seconded by Councillor Pearson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.